So the second part to this is that, again, we can do multiplication of fractions, and as long as we have quantities that match and they're being multiplied together, we can use simplifying or reduce them, because a minus b over a minus b becomes 1. A plus b over a plus b becomes a 1. And then we can multiply across so that we get 1 over 1. And so our final answer should really just be a 1. So when we work through number 5, I want to point out a couple of things. The first is that often in your homework, remember, the binomials aren't going to have parentheses around them. So you should start by putting them in. Second is a simplification. So t minus 1 over t minus 1 is going to simplify. But don't forget about the numbers as well, so that as long as it's multiplication, so we're multiplying all the way across the top and we're multiplying all the way across the bottom, that I can also treat these as fractions, so that 2/4 would simplify to become 1/2. So that my answer to number 5 should be t plus 4 times t plus 1 all over 2 times t plus 3. Now when we go down to number 6, this is the first one where we really have to start factoring. And the first thing you should see is that 5h minus 5 has a greatest common factor of 5. So that when you factor that, you would do 5 times h minus 1. You're very welcome. Over 6h. And again, if you wanted to factor 6 to make it into more multiplications, you could. But since it's a number and we're just going to treat it like fractions, we're going to write it as 6. But again, if you wanted to write that as 2 times 3, perfectly acceptable. Times 18. Again, if you want to change that one into 2 times 3 times 3. If you wanted to change that one, you could. And in the denominator, it has a GCF. So in order to make that multiplication, we're going to take 10 times h minus 1. Now we do our simplifying. And let's do numbers first this time. 5 over 10 becomes 1/2. 18 over 6 becomes 3 over 1. H minus 1 over h minus 1 becomes 1. I have nothing else to simplify, so I multiply across. 1 times 3 gives me a 3. And in the denominator, 1 times h times 2 times 1 gives me 2h. Now when you move to the next problem, number 7, that should be the first time when we have a little bit different kind of factoring. These are all GCFs, so why don't you give number 7 a try on your own. But before you go, because I think I'm going to leave you with number 9 as well. Nope, I'm going to leave you with 8. In number 9, I'm going to tell you that you need to remember to use a denominator of 1. And then we'll come back and we'll do number 10 together. So finish up those 3, and I'll put the answers up for you to check your work. So 7, 8, and 9. The caution on number 7 is that you should make sure that you only simplify one of the x plus 4s, not both of them. So that it's just a x plus 4 over x plus 4 that simplifies. Number 8, make sure that that negative 1 doesn't stay in the denominator. And also remember that when you have that subtraction that's backwards, you need to put negative 1 in order to put in front, or undistribute that negative 1 in order to put it in order. Number 9, I already gave you the hint on, so I'm pretty sure everybody ended up okay. And here's number 10. It's the first one where we really have to factor, so I want to make sure we talk about it together. So again, this is a binomial, so we can't just simplify it. And this is a trinomial, so we can't just simplify it. They have to be factored. It has to be something with multiplication in order to be simplified. So n over a pair of numbers that multiply to 15 but add to 8. So multiply to 15 and add to 8 should be 5 and 3. So that we end up with n plus 5. Oops, I wrote them backwards. N plus 3 times n plus 5 in the denominator. In the numerator, it's a GCF problem. So undistribute. And last but not least is that n squared. And you can write it as n squared or as n. And now we can start simplifying. N plus 5 over n plus 5 becomes a 1. N over n will leave us with an n down here. So my final answer will be 2 over n times n plus 3. Go ahead and finish these problems up. They should all be factoring problems. Number 11 is, number 12 definitely is, and then we start another new section tomorrow. So 11 and 12, give them a try, come back, check your work.